When people ask me to describe my father, he went full blast the whole way. And that's how I'm going to remember him. My name is George Luz Jr., and my dad was George Luz, who served in World War II. He was in the airborne. He joined in 1942. And it wasn't until much later I realized why he joined the airborne.
I was 21 years old, and I was working and I was making about $16 a week.
Yeah.
And one day said it's $50 a month extra.
He raised his hand, and my dad was just like that.
Man, I just jumped up. My father just cried. He didn't want me to go.
So they trained for almost 2 years, a couple of months shy of 2 years before they jumped into combat. They were very in tune to each other, and they knew their movements. So that had really brought the closeness together, where it wasn't as if they were just throwing guys together to form these units to go and fight the Nazis. It was a much different environment, and it was a band of brothers. My father jumped about 1:30 in the morning on June 6th. The plane was too low, it was too fast. The fire coming up was so thick, it was like you could walk on it. There was so much anti-aircraft fire coming up. And as he was coming down, I remember him saying that, that the shots coming up, man, he could see guys getting hit. He was very fortunate enough to not get hit. When I look at the courage that my dad and his buddies had, you wonder, you put yourself in that place and you say, how would I react in something like that? It was quite extraordinary to think about the 3 years that he served with these guys, how that shaped him moving forward for the rest of his life. They saw the worst of humanity. And they would have done anything for each other. These guys loved each other to a point that we can never really understand. I usually go to Normandy several times a year. Going there, it's stunning. When you come walking in and walking along by the monument, and then the water, and then the flags, and then off in the distance, the graves, and then to walk amongst them and look at the names and look where they came from. And just think that their life was cut short, and they sacrificed for all of us. And then I think about how many of those young men and women have never had a family member come to that grave and stand over it. So in a very small way, I try to be that person. Just be that person to stand over that grave and acknowledge that person, that sacrifice that they made. And it's just a very poignant place, a very solemn place, but a very uplifting place too. You really get an understanding of the sacrifice in looking at every one of those graves, which represents someone who didn't come home. If there was one message for future generations, it would be never forget and remember them. Here's my dad to the left, And then just all the guys my dad served, and shifting powers. We can learn so much from the men and women that serve, not only in World War II, but in every war. And they all have a story to tell. And it's our responsibility to tell those stories, because people will not be forgotten as long as we keep talking about them.